The Tampa Bay Lightning have already made their first move of the offseason, and I think it was at least a solid stepping stone to build off. We'll talk about how the Lightning leadership is in good hands and which Lightning players are inbound for multiple NHL awards.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Sperber, and I want to thank you all for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. We're going to start in this one talking about the Lightning leadership, because one thing that was made very clear by the players, coaches, general manager, really anyone who has to do with the Lightning, is just the strength of the Tampa Bay Lightning leadership. And I think it starts with the coaching. And that was something that was tossed around, as it usually is, immediately following that Lightning Game 5 exit against the Panthers. You'll see a lot of times with any team, there's always going to be someone starting some rumor about the coach leaving after a tough exit, after an ending to the season that might not have been what the team thought it was going to be, what the fans expected, whatever it is. And one of the first things that Julien Brisebois did was just put to rest any of those rumors, as the plan is to have John Cooper, the entire coaching staff for the Tampa Bay Lightning, back for the 25-26 season. And I think that is absolutely the right call. I think that while the Lightning season certainly didn't end and hasn't ended in the past couple of years as the team had hoped, maybe the Lightning have underachieved in the postseason the last couple of years, but I just don't. I'm not sure that's on the coaching. I think that there are so many teams that can be too quick with a coaching exit based on, a setback, an early exit, whatever it may be. But regardless of the playoff exits, Lightning have gotten to the postseason consistently under John Cooper. And I don't think that that's something that should be taken lightly. I think that, there might not be the talent required for this Lightning team to be a Stanley Cup contender right now. Maybe the Lightning need to make a couple of adds, get a couple players in there. But I think that, as good as this Lightning team was, as special as the group as it is, I think it seemed like a long shot for the Bolts to win the Stanley Cup this year. But it certainly seems like they're going in the right direction. And that's something we'll talk about more in the next segment, about some of the moves that the Lightning made and have made recently that I think have, showed that this team is going to be building the right way when it comes to the offseason. But a big piece of building is having a head coach, because you can't really move forward in any sport without consistency, without, just a good head coach, a good person leading the ship. And when it comes to on the ice, off the ice, in the community, whatever, I think John Cooper is still the perfect guy to lead this Tampa Bay Lightning team. So I'm really glad that in those exit interviews that the Lightning had last week, I think that making it clear that John Cooper is part of the Tampa Bay Lightning's future plans is definitely a big plus for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think it's smart for the Lightning to keep giving Cooper a little bit more leash, regardless of those playoff exits, because you can't win the Stanley Cup every year. But I think with John Cooper at the helm, you at least know that you'll have a fighting chance for it, because he's only missed the playoffs once in his double-digit career of managing the Tampa Bay Lightning. I really think that he is just the right man for the job, and I think the Bolts made that clear. And a couple other jobs that they got right were their captains. I think at the beginning of the season, I had said something about maybe Vasilevsky could be someone. The Lightning typically will go for guys that are homegrown players, and they did that for two of the three captains. But I think looking at the captain structure and seeing just how they talk about the team, listening to them relate with the media post game, and then with Nikita Kucherov talking about his kind of off-season, training program that he's going to have, inviting his entire Lightning teammates to train with him over the course of the offseason. I think it's just the Lightning leadership group from top to bottom is just clearly showing that is doing the right things in terms of bringing this team in the right direction. I think Victor Hedman was the obvious captain. I think he was a unanimous vote. I don't think that there was any doubt that Hedman would be the next captain. And I think that's something that the Lightning could have just as easily announced, the day after Stamkos left, because Victor Hedman being the Lightning captain seemed like it would be a certainty after Stamkos' departure. And I think that really paid off great. You got a guy who really loves the Tampa Bay community, who's been with the Lightning longer than any other player who has ever played NHL hockey, though that was cemented during this season. It is still something that's worth mentioning, just having a guy who knows the ins and outs of the organization better than any player probably has, is a big deal. And I think that Victor Hedman was just the perfect choice for the captain. And then Nikita Kucherov staying the alternate captain. I think some people, there are some players that are at the top of their game that aren't necessarily suited for leadership roles. Some guys are just kind of there to be the best, offensive player or defensive player at their given position in a given sport. I think one example for me is a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo in the soccer world. Would I put the captain's armband around his shirt? No. Do I want him on my team? Absolutely. And I think there could be some people that don't realize how strong of a leader that Nikita Kucherov really is because of the fact that he is not a very public person. He's not exactly the public face of the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's not a guy who likes to be in interviews, but he is unquestionably a leader by example. And, this training camp, I think, is a perfect example out of why he's such a good leader, because that's not something that he's publicizing. That's not something that he's opening to anyone except for the Tampa Bay Lightning teammates to do one thing: get better for next season, put the Lightning in a better position in 2025 and 26 than they were in this past season to win the Stanley Cup. And that's something that a captain does, is, make sure that his teammates are staying on top of everything in the offseason, and they're not, taking the vacation time too much to the head. Obviously, Cooch even said that he's going to take a week off before he gets back to training, but having that kind of open invite go out from a guy like Nikita Kucherov, it's just really great to see that one of the best players got where he is, not, from one reason and one reason only, really. The reason Cooch got where he was is not because he has some, God-given talent, which, he might, but he works at that talent. He doesn't take it for granted, and he does whatever he can to make himself and his teammates better. And that's something I really think Ryan McDonagh did over the course of the season. We're going to talk about a little later that I think the Ted Lindsay Award, the Hart Trophy, are two awards that demonstrate the leadership, the value that Nikita Kucherov has to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they're two awards that I think Cooch is going to win, and that's something we'll talk about in the last segment. But I will continue to say that Ryan McDonagh is definitely a guy who might be the most valuable player to the Tampa Bay Lightning team. And you want those leaders to be those kind of players that have that value, not just for their skill on the ice, but also for their leadership off the ice, for what they can do in the locker room, for how they can handle the pressures and deflect some of those off of some of their less experienced, some of their younger teammates. And talking with Ryan McDonagh, hearing him relay comments after difficult games, because usually he would be one of the only players out talking to the media after some of the Lightning's toughest losses, not just because he played a solid individual effort, but also because he's just one of the players that really just knows how to not just say the right things to say the right things, but also to really be in the heads of his teammates and really know what their mindset is and how that they like things done. And I just don't think that there's any team in the NHL that has a better leadership group than the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that even goes up to the coaching staff, goes up to the front office. And I think that regardless of the way the last couple of seasons have ended, you certainly don't like losing to your rival in the postseason back-to-back years. But I think the Tampa Bay Lightning are unquestionably headed in the right direction with their strong leadership group going all the way up to the front office and all the way onto the ice with the three men wearing the letters on their jerseys. And something else I think that has the Lightning set up for success in the offseason was a pretty minor-looking move, but something that I think can create a ripple effect that helps the Lightning in this upcoming offseason.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bear Mattress, and the results were instant. Bear Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bear's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bear offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
So, off-season moves, some that might look bigger than the others, some that might seem small, always have an effect on what happens in the rest of this team, the rest of this offseason, for the rest of the regular season. Any move can have a ripple effect, and the Lightning's first new signing of the offseason, I think, could have that. Charles-Edouard Dastos, apologies on the pronunciation if I get that wrong, but Dastos has been in professional hockey for a long time in leagues in Sweden, Finland, and even in some leagues in North America. But the 27-year-old is now signed to a two-way contract for 1 year for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I'm going to, less on his skill, but I'm going to tell you why this signing is a really good start for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't want to say that, a little-known journeyman kind of guy is going to make an instant impact and turn the Lightning instantly into a championship team, because I don't think he is. But I think he could get there. He could become a part of a team, but individually, it's not like the Lightning are signing, Wayne Gretzky or someone like that. But I still think he can have a good impact on the team, regardless of his skill on the ice, because it poses a challenge to some of the younger defensemen on the Lightning roster, like Emil Lilleberg and, for now, Nick Perbix. I think this could be, could mean some writing is on the wall for Perbix. Again, as we talked about yesterday, Perbix is one of the Lightning players who has his deal expiring once the offseason begins. But it's very clear, at least to me, that the Tampa Bay Lightning need to add defense in their offseason. I think that has to be their number one priority. And their first signing of the offseason, a defenseman. Yes, it's a two-way contract, but it still gives Dastos some time to adjust to the NHL, the AHL, wherever the Lightning start him. And also, it poses a challenge for guys like Emil Lilleberg. It'd be one thing if the Lightning had signed, Jan Rutta or Alec Martinez or a veteran player like that. Not saying that, free agency among NHL players is wide open right now. But the point is, it's a mid-20s to late 20s guy. Emil Ehlberg is only 24 years old. Dastos is 27, a little bit older. And the age difference isn't enough where Ehlberg is that much younger, so he's going to get preferential treatment in terms of where he's put in the lineup. There's enough of an age difference that Dastos is going to be a guy to challenge Emil Ehlberg for his spot on that third line, regardless of what happens to Nick Perbix. He's someone that can play on the left and right side. I believe that Dastos is a left defender primarily. But regardless, I think it puts a little bit more pressure on Emil Ehlberg because there were some things that Ehlberg did well over the course of the regular season and postseason. He did have a goal and 18 assists in 76 games, but there were some things that he did not do that well. The 105 penalty minutes led the Lightning. Part of it was he was essentially the team's enforcer in a lot of different ways, and he definitely has that aggressive physical style of play, but sometimes the penalty kill can come back to haunt the Lightning. As good as guys like Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel are on that PK, and even some of the Lightning's top defensemen like Eric Chernak, Ryan McDonough, Victor Hedman, it's not like taking Ehlberg out of the game, even if sometimes it was just him defending a teammate or even himself. But maybe, he was a little bit too physical. Maybe that affects how the Lightning see him. But regardless of where the Lightning see Ehlberg in the fold, he's someone that has an expiring contract coming up, and the Lightning aren't sure if he's going to be their guy going forward. They're not sure if Dastos is even going to make the Lightning, but it poses more of a challenge on Emil Ehlberg and also on some of the Lightning's AHL guys that are really on the cusp, like Declan Carlisle and Max Crozier, especially two of the younger guys, where guys like Steven Santini, Derek Pulio are in their 30s. Declan Carlisle, Max Crozier are both 25 years old, around that age. And those are the kind of young players that you want to start bringing into the fold right now for Tampa Bay, guys who have had some experience, but, haven't had an extended run in the NHL. And I think Max Crozier has to be the next man up for Tampa Bay Lightning. He's arguably the Crunch's best defender all year long, and that could be on both sides of the ice. I think offensively that would still go to Pulio in terms of Syracuse, but in terms of being an all-around defender, Max Crozier was just that important to the Syracuse Crunch, and the Lightning are hoping that he can play that big role and help the Lightning on their defensive side when he gets up to the NHL. But I think Dastos is going to be someone that can challenge these guys, a hungry, still relatively young player that is looking for a spot on an NHL team that he's clearly been fighting for, going all around the world to try and do. And now he's closer than he's ever been. He's had some time in the ECHL, had a cup of coffee there, but now he could be in the chance to be in an NHL team. And you've got Ehlberg, who's going to be fighting for a spot, Crozier, Santini, Carlisle, guys that can compete from the AHL side, and just adding another man to the net mix is going to create a lot of good, friendly competition in preseason for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And something else that I think it does is it's a clear marker that defense is on the mind of the Lightning front office, of anyone who's involved in making those decisions in terms of free agency and trades and everything like that. The Lightning seem to be a very self-aware team. They know what they need. They know what their issues were, I think, and what hampered them in terms of the difficulty they had in making their playoff run, ways that they need to improve. And is Dastos individually going to be the answer? No, but it's going to be someone on defense. And with the salary cap situation that I tried to outline for you guys yesterday, making a big splash kind of move, signing a big name defender like Vladislav Gavrikov or Ivan Provorov, any number of the big name defensemen that are going to be available on the free agent market once free agency officially opens following the postseason. Obviously, those are the kind of moves you'd like to get for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but since they're really up against the edge of the cap, they have no wiggle room in terms of salary cap. They might have to go with the discount option and try and scratch together some hungry young players to fight for spots. And Diastos, I think, could be one of them. And I think he is certainly going to put some more pressure on some of the other young Lightning defenders who will certainly be in the mix for a spot on the NHL roster, because the defense is a unit that I'm really going to be watching closely in the offseason, but also in the preseason in a couple months' time when the Lightning are getting ready for another NHL year, because the offense can contend with anyone. But if you don't have a strong defense, the offense doesn't have as much room to work. And that is an issue that it really seems the Lightning are intent on addressing as well as they can over the course of this offseason. But as I mentioned, the offense certainly seems like it's in good hands for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Nikita Kucherov, once again nominated for a number of awards, and he was named a finalist for 2 of them over the first week of May. And I think that Kuch could be going home with multiple pieces of hardware at the end of this offseason. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm just snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or need a quick protein boost. The no shells variety of Wonderful Pistachios are always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are still a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Nikita Kucherov was nominated for both the Hart Trophy and the Ted Lindsay Trophy, 2 awards among a litany of awards the Lightning were nominated for. Anthony Cirelli, a Selke Trophy nominee, Andrei Vasilevsky, a Vezina Trophy finalist, and then, of course, Braden Point, a Lady Byng finalist, and now Nikita Kucherov for both the Hart Trophy and the Ted Lindsay Award. 2 Avalanche players nominated for the Ted Lindsay Award, Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. For the Hart Trophy, Connor Hellebuck, Leon Draisaitl, and Nikita Kucherov. And we're going to start with the Ted Lindsay Award because I think having those 2 Avalanche players, 2 guys in the same team nominated for the most outstanding player in the NHL, I think could honestly cancel it out. You can't deny the greatness of either Nate MacKinnon or Cale Makar, who was also named a Norris Trophy finalist and likely to win that award as well. So I think Cale certainly could be the most outstanding defenseman, but I think that Nikita Kucherov can just cancel both of them out because he was not only head and shoulders above any other offensive player in the NHL, he was head and shoulders above anyone else on his own team. Brandon Hagel was second in points for the Tampa Bay Lightning with 90, full 31 points fewer than Nikita Kucherov, who had 8 power play goals, 9 game-winning goals, which far and away led the Tampa Bay Lightning. Braden Point had 2 fewer game winners than Kuch did over the course of the season. And you can compare stats with Kucherov and MacKinnon and Makar. There's obviously some intangibles that go into looking at the skill of a defender and judging how valuable they are to their team that might not really apply as much to the offensive players. But Nikita Kucherov might not be known for his defensive abilities, but so many of his goals, so many of the Lightning goals are scored off of just the right stick check at the right time that he makes, just getting a little poke, putting the puck in open ice, and then using his speed and his awareness to just get to that spot. and get himself a breakaway goal or have himself set up a breakaway goal for one of the many Lightning scores. And I mean, also you take a look at some of the guys on Tampa's first line that Kucherov is just, he looks so much better than some of the guys that are among the best in the NHL. Comparing Kucherov to a guy like Braden Point or Jake Gensel or Brandon Hagel doesn't seem to be a comparison, but like that's just on Kuch's own team. Then you look at the rest of the NHL, and I just don't think there was an offensive player who made as much of an effort for his own team than Kucherov did. And I think that when you look at the Hart Trophy as well, it's pretty evident when you compare Kuch to some of those other guys, because with Leon Draisaitl, he had some injuries that I think hampered some of his point production, but he's a goal scorer. And he's also a goal scorer that took advantage of some missed shots by guys like Connor McDavid. And as good as Draisaitl is himself, I think if you put him on a line where he is the leader and not on a line with maybe Connor McDavid or anyone, I think that I just don't know if he does as well. I think that this Connor McDavid's presence on that team could take some of the shine away from Draisaitl, as elite as his goal scoring ability was. I mean, you can't knock 50 goals on the season, and he certainly stepped up in some of the games where McDavid was out with an injury, but there's no doubt that the Edmonton Oilers are Connor McDavid's team. The same way there's no doubt that when it comes to the offensive side of things, the Lightning are Nikita Kucherov's team. He has, the offense runs through Kucherov no matter what. And that's one of the reasons that the Lightning have had one of the best offenses in the season. I mean, you look at a team that their defense was good enough to get them to the playoffs, but it was the offense that really carried the Tampa Bay Lightning, that defined the skill of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And Nikita Kucherov has a hand in just about every play, in about just about everything that is done with the Tampa Bay Lightning offense. And I think that really needs to be looked at a lot more carefully when adjudicating the MVP, the most outstanding player in the NHL. And as much as I love to see a goalie win the Hart Trophy like Connor Hellebuyck, he's already going to win the Vezina Trophy. And I've seen that in a couple other instances in different sports. You have a more defensive-minded player who might be just as valuable to the team as the top scorer, but if there's a defensive award, they'll win that, and someone else will win the MVP. You look at some Cy Young Award pitchers in the major leagues. Could they have had an MVP season in those years? Yeah. But, I mean, it's just so difficult to compare goaltenders with skaters on the ice that I think it's hard for me to say that Hellebuyck was the most valuable player on his team. I mean, there's so much talent on that Jets team around him that you could really choose any of those guys that could be Hart Trophy nominees. And I think when you look at the Jets, the Lightning, the Oilers, and you look at those Hart Trophy nominees, I think taking off Kucherov would hurt the Lightning more than taking Draisaitl off the Oilers, maybe even taking Hellebuyck off the Jets. It would hurt them. And I think the same thing could be said, the Ted Lindsay Award, with Nathan McKinnon, definitely. Cale Makar, maybe not. But again, I just think that, Nikita Kucherov not scoring in the postseason, and the Lightning, Nikita Kucherov didn't score in the postseason. The Lightning only won one game in the postseason. Lightning are a better team when Kucherov is putting pucks in the net, when Kucherov is moving the needle for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and when Nikita Kucherov is the star of the Lightning offense. So I really think that that he deserves the Ted Lindsay Award, and I really think he deserves the Hart Trophy, because I don't think that there was a more dominant offensive player in the NHL this season, and I definitely don't think that there's another MVP candidate besides Nikita Kucherov. I said this at the beginning of the year. If Nikita Kucherov has another season similar to the one he had in 23-24, the one he had in the previous season, that he'd win the Hart Trophy. He did that. The Lightning got to the playoffs in large part because of Kucherov, and I think he deserves that. And, his skill, I shouldn't need to go into too much detail about the skill of Nikita Kucherov and why that deserves to be the most outstanding player in the NHL, but I definitely think that Kuch is that plain and simple. So I guess we'll see in the coming weeks when the awards get named, but I know who's got my vote. Until tomorrow, though, well, actually until Thursday, we'll be off on Wednesday. So please send in some mailbag questions, anything you want me to answer in Thursday's show. But until Thursday, I just want to thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale with Locked On NHL Game Night. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, or wherever you listen to this podcast. Please give us a like, a follow, a subscribe. Really do appreciate your guys' support. So thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys watching this show once again, and we'll see you guys on Thursday. Have a great couple of days, everybody.